Something that is really standing out to me as I go over Spinoza's writings are that while the influence of the Stoics on his work, in my opinion, are very clear, what is also very clear but less talked about is the influence of Eastern philosophy, particularly Vedic philosophy. Many of you probably know that when we're discussing early Western scientists from the Renaissance to Enlightenment era and also to the modern and postmodern period, that one very problematic aspect of scientific philosophy in this tradition is the appropriation and misuse of Eastern philosophies. So I want to start by acknowledging that, and then I want to add that equally disrespectful to those cultures where that knowledge originates from is to not acknowledge its influence. I don't talk about this a lot. Maybe if it keeps coming up, maybe I'll talk about it more, but I took 10 years between my undergrad and graduate work. So I was studying neuroscience, and while I was doing my research and taking my courses, I learned about the relationship between contemplation and executive functioning and healing from trauma, which is something that I was actively learning to do at the time. So it made sense to take some time to really focus on it. And I was also learning about somatic therapy and how that relates to the neuroscience of healing from trauma. And that's how I ended up spending 10 years teaching contemplation and practicing massage therapy, which I'm really grateful that I was able to do. It is no exaggeration to say that I took my studies of yogic philosophy as well as traditional Chinese medical philosophy just as seriously as I have taken my studies in any other field. So I don't wish to conflate them, and this isn't a channel for me to teach those things that I used to teach as a practice. But now that I'm really diving into this philosophy from the Renaissance to the Enlightenment era, I say it that way because Spinoza was part of the transition between those periods. Anyways, as I start diving into that philosophy and how the question I'm really asking is, one of the questions I'm asking is, how did our modern concept of science emerge from these early philosophies? And so I'm looking at Descartes and Spinoza and the Stoics and everything, and I think it's only fair because you have to actively ignore the influence of Eastern philosophy if you've studied it. As far as I'm concerned, when you're reading these texts, I think it's very disrespectful to not acknowledge them. So I want to start by just acknowledging them and acknowledging all of that complicatedness. So out of respect, we're going to keep them separate, and this isn't a channel for me to teach those contemplation practices, but the theology and philosophy of the Vedic texts and traditional Chinese medicine and Eastern philosophy in general had great influence on these early scientific philosophers and therefore modern society. So give credit where credit is due. Clearly this deserves it deserves a lot of focus. So I may do an essay after the essay that I'm writing now on Spinoza's work. I might write something focusing more on this. I might do it further down the line because it's a big undertaking. It could definitely be its own chapter in the book I'm writing, and it should definitely be its own book. So let me know what you think, and I'll keep you posted.